Every single morning, before the coffee even finished brewing, a small orange kitten climbed onto the windowsill and stared across the street. He didn't meow, he didn't play, he just watched. His name was Biscuit, and he had come into our lives 8 weeks earlier, pulled from a cardboard box outside a shuttered bookstore, shivering, alone, barely bigger than my palm. We gave him a warm bed, a heated blanket, a family who adored him. And yet, every morning, he chose the window instead. At first, we thought it was funny. Kittens are curious, right? Birds, cars, falling leaves, anything moving could hold his attention for hours. But this was different. Biscuit wasn't watching movement, he was watching one single spot. The same house, the same window, every single day. We started to worry. Was something wrong with him? Was he anxious or bored or missing something we couldn't give him? We tried everything to distract him. New toys scattered across the living room floor, a cat tree tucked into the corner, tall enough to reach the ceiling, treats hidden in little puzzle boxes that were supposed to keep even the laziest cat entertained for an hour. Biscuit ignored all of it. He would glance at the toys, sniff the treats politely, and then walk right back to that same windowsill, settle into the same spot, and resume his quiet watch. It wasn't playful curiosity. It wasn't the twitchy, scattered attention kittens usually have. It was focus, steady, patient, almost deliberate. My mother, who had raised cats her whole life, came to visit one weekend and noticed it immediately. "That's not a kitten looking for something new," she said, watching him from the doorway. "That's a cat looking for someone she already knows." We laughed it off at the time. He was 8 weeks old. What could he possibly already know? But the more we watched him, the harder that explanation was to shake. He never looked at cars. He never chased the birds that landed on the porch railing just a few feet away. His eyes stayed locked on one house, one window, one small patch of world across the street, no matter what else moved around him. If you've ever watched a kitten stare at something you couldn't see and felt that little tug of worry in your chest, you already know how this felt. Stick with us, because what we found out changed the way we look at this cat forever. And if stories like this move you, consider subscribing so you never miss the next one. The house across the street belonged to a woman named Eleanor. She was in her 70s, lived alone, and rarely left her porch except to fill a small dish by her steps. We'd seen her out there before, quiet, unhurried, scattering food for the neighborhood strays. We didn't think much of it, just an old woman who liked cats. But Biscuit knew something we didn't. One afternoon, my husband finally walked over to introduce ourselves and thank her, half joking, for apparently being our kitten's favorite television channel. Eleanor laughed, but her eyes softened in a way that surprised us. "That little orange one," she said, "he used to sleep behind my rose bushes every night for almost 2 months before you found him." We stood there in silence. She told us about the winter nights she left food out, hoping the small kitten curled by her fence would make it until morning. She told us how she used to sit on her porch steps just to talk to him because her own house had gone quiet years ago, after her husband passed. Biscuit hadn't been watching a window, he'd been watching her. From that moment on, everything we thought we understood about our kitten rearranged itself. He wasn't anxious, he wasn't bored. He was remembering the only kindness he'd known before we found him, and quietly, patiently, waiting to see it again. We started letting him sit on the porch in the evenings, where he could see her clearly. Eleanor began stepping outside earlier, coffee in hand, just to wave. Some nights she'd walk halfway across the street and Biscuit would press himself against the screen door, tail flicking, eyes locked on her the entire time. Neighbors began to notice. They said it was the strangest thing, watching a kitten wait by the window at the exact same time every afternoon, as if he owned a clock no one else could see. Still no subscribe yet? Honestly, that stings a little. If Biscuit's patience can teach us anything today, it's that showing up matters. So hit that subscribe button and let's keep showing up for stories like this one together. Then, one October evening, everything changed.
Biscuit was at the window as usual, but this time he didn't just watch, he started crying. Loud, frantic, a sound none of us had ever heard from him before. He clawed at the glass again and again, refusing to stop no matter how we tried to calm him. We looked outside. Eleanor's porch light was on, but her front door stood open, and she wasn't in sight. My husband ran across the street before I could even grab my shoes. He found her on the kitchen floor, barely conscious, having slipped near the counter almost 20 minutes earlier. She couldn't reach her phone. She couldn't call out. If Biscuit hadn't been watching, hadn't been crying, hadn't refused to let us ignore him, we might never have checked at all. Paramedics later said that 20 more minutes could have meant a very different outcome. They asked my husband how he knew something was wrong. He didn't have a good answer. All he could say was that the sound coming from our living room was unlike anything he'd ever heard a cat make, and some part of him simply knew not to ignore it. Eleanor spent 4 days in the hospital. Those 4 days felt strange in our house. Biscuit sat at the window every morning as always, but there was no porch light to watch, no small figure moving behind the glass across the street. He waited anyway. He didn't cry again, didn't claw at anything. He simply sat there, still and patient, the same way he had the very first week we brought him home. On the second night, my daughter found him asleep on the windowsill for the first time ever, not watching, just resting, curled into the same shape he must have used behind Eleanor's rose bushes all those cold nights before anyone knew his name. When she came home, there was a small orange kitten waiting on her porch steps, as if he'd never left. She cries sometimes when she tells the story now, not from sadness, she says, but because she never expected, at her age, alone in a quiet house, that a stray kitten she once fed out of pity would be the reason she was still here to tell it. Biscuit still watches the window every single day, but now, instead of worry, we feel something closer to wonder. He taught an entire street that loyalty doesn't disappear just because circumstances change. It waits, it remembers, and sometimes it saves your life. Eleanor visits almost every evening now. She and Biscuit share a spot on the porch, her hand resting gently on his back, both of them watching the sunset instead of an empty window. Some evenings, Eleanor brings out 2 cups of tea, one for herself, and half-jokingly, one she never drinks, just set beside her on the small table, like an old habit she isn't ready to break. Biscuit sits between them, watching the street the way he used to, except now there's nothing left to wait for. The waiting is over. We used to think he was just a curious kitten. Now we understand he was never confused about where he belonged. He simply refused to forget the one person who was kind to him when he had absolutely nothing. If you've ever underestimated how much a small animal can remember or how far loyalty can reach across a single street, let us know. Do you think cats truly remember kindness, or is it simply instinct? Tell us what you believe in the comments below.